background for officers. So, Brown?
You can do it.
It's been a long morning.
Good, through the Mayor. Just looking in our resolution where it talks about the off licences and having no further off licences in Maraenui, Mariwa and Onikawa, just wondering what the intention is behind that, because in my mind that could be read two ways. It could be essentially a sinking lid policy, or it could be we do not want a higher density of licences. So if one goes under, you can get another one.
Yeah, so what I understood from the 20th of February meeting, we were directed to consult on the status quo around that, which was the bottle store restriction for Maraenui. So that's no further bottle stores, off-licence bottle stores for Maraenui. And so that's what we did in the draft. The other two options that Council asked us to look at were a bottle store restriction, no further bottle stores on all suburban areas, or no further bottle stores within specified suburban areas. So that's outlined in the issues and options paper.
Just for clarification, you mean not an increase in the total number? Okay.
I guess to provide an example, if an existing store was sold, that would require a new licence. We're not trying to stop that from happening, are we?
Yeah, I think that's how I would read that wording, is that it's no further off licences.
No further off licences. Yeah. Because that way we just need to be really clear that, if someone's selling their existing business, then whoever's buying that business will require a new liquor licence. So just ensuring that we've got real clarity in that part of the
Yeah,
LAP.
through the chair, I might add to that. So there would be no increase to the status quo at this point. So, if one's sold, another one can, reapply for a licence and.
Yeah. So I think no increase in the status quo is actually quite clear. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions before we dive into the officer's recommendations? So first up, pretty easy, receive and consider all submissions received on the draft local alcohol policy. And then I'll just jump to C, because this is where we are accepting the information provided by Health New Zealand and the New Zealand Police as early letters and information prior to the formal consultation process. I would just like to add into there that these have not been counted as formal submissions. Just for clarity, that because they weren't received, so that it's informed the draft local alcohol policy, but they haven't been counted as formal submissions to the process. So we'll just... Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Okay.
Through you, Madam Mayor, may I just a point of clarification?
Yeah.
The information that was provided early by particularly police, Health New Zealand did make a submission during the time frame, but the information provided by police, if the council did want to look to go to shift from the 7 a.m. to 9 a.m, would form the basis of that decision. So that information, even though if you accept it early, would be used to form the basis of that decision if you were to go to 9 a.m. openings.
So it would... Sorry, can you?
Yeah, so the information that was provided early by police would be the only information that we have to form the basis for that sales at 9 a.m. if we were to
As the evidence?
Yes, indeed, yeah.
I have a high level of discomfort allowing one organisation and their information to be included as a formal submission when it was not submitted in the correct time frame. It sets a very dangerous precedent.
So I think that's the clarity we just
Yeah. So then if we just go, we'll head to D, accept the officer's recommendation regarding the draft LAP as follows. No change to provisions in the draft LAP regarding maximum trading hours. So I will open this up because I do know we have some different views after this morning's submitters and reading through all the submission documents? Councillor Price.
After hearing everything and looking at all the facts that we've received, I'd like it to stay at 3 a.m. closing,
For on licence?
on licence. Having listened to some advice we've been given, I think it might be dangerous ground changing the 7 a.m. opening to the off licence. We haven't really been given any evidence of an issue. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
I have issues with changing the opening hours for supermarkets, taking it from 7 to 9. I have some sympathy for those who wish to shop at that hour of the morning, so I would like it to stay at 7. And contrary to the other commissioner on the DLC, I would like to see the closing time for on licences reduced to 2 a.m. And I just cite that we have, we say we're a tourism town and we need to cater for that. However, Paris, Rome, Los Angeles and Florida all have 2 a.m. closing. Thank you.
Councillor Mawson and then Councillor McGrath.
I'll keep it brief. I agree with Councillor Price.
Why?
No changes to the opening and closing.
Just to clarify for the off licence, because we had also proposed going from 10 p.m. to 9 p.m. Are you suggesting that we retain what's in the existing LAP, which is 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., or are we doing 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.?
Retain existing.
Retain, because I only on, I haven't seen any evidence would suggest there is an issue, which I think is dangerous ground when we...
Councillor McGrath?
Yeah, I'm going to follow on from these guys, sticking with the status quo that we currently have of 3 o'clock. And also in the mornings for the supermarkets, 7 till, I think currently 7 till 10, and we're
10.
proposing 9. The stats, when I have looked at them, it doesn't correlate to harm being caused from alcohol being purchased at that hour. The harm at that time period doesn't seem to line up. And also, if I come back to the 3 o'clock finish for the likes of the nightclub, when I looked at the stats before, and if I can even find some of my stuff I wrote down, which I now can't, the harm in Ahuriri from, I think it was the time 10 at night till 4 in the morning, is almost the same as the harm in Maraenui at the same time period. And one has 2 licensed premises, I think it is, in Maraenui, and I have no idea in Ahuriri, probably 20 plus. So I don't see the correlation of the stats that one place is worse than perhaps another, based on the fact that it's open and in a secure environment.
So Councillor Crown.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Just on the issue of on licences, I'm actually, after going through the submissions and hearing feedback today, I'm supportive of retaining the 3 a.m. closing time. I think it's actually really important for us to consider a local context rather than perhaps what other cities that are much bigger than us have overseas. I think one of the current issues that we have at the moment in our city is business viability. It is vibrancy in our city, especially after hours. And hearing from businesses the lengths that they're going to put things in place to manage what's happening within their venues, it's sort of a little bit, if it ain't broke, then no need to fix it, position from my perspective. So I'm actually supportive of retaining the 3 a.m. as well.
Councillor Bogue, then Councillor Christie.
Yes, I speak against changing what has been put in front of us in the local alcohol policy. Today we heard from really 2 groups of people. One was the industry, their employees and the the people who basically earn or make money through selling alcohol. And of course, it's only right for them to ask for extended hours rather than shorter hours, because that's how they make their income. And sure, that's fine, and I appreciate the measures that have been put in place by some of them to mitigate some of the issues around that. The other group, you could say, the community, and although not everybody acknowledged that they were from the community, there were some organisations, can't count the police or the DHB, who pick up the damage done by alcohol abuse, but there's the Youth Council, Te Tangata Maraenoi Trust, the Salvation Army, Alcohol Health Watch, and others who were in favour of the conditions in the LAP. So I think it's our responsibility, where do we sit? It's our responsibility to take the opportunity and do all we can. This is all about reducing alcohol-related harm. And we have a lot of alcohol-related harm in our community. We have a very high number of hazardous drinkers, 25% in our region. We have a significantly larger than average number of licensed premises per population. So the evidence is that the longer the hours of trade, the more harm that's being done, basically. And I think if we are to be responsible, we should take that on board. And I think we risk reputational damage if we extend the hours from what we put in this LAP because particular bars have asked us to do that. And it was particularly in light of some of the other comments that were made about bars in Ahuriri and how the neighbours feel about them, and the incidents of police-related, a drive-by shooting last year, and a series of incidents around there that I think we need to be responsible in terms of saying, sure, that bar's fine, but we don't want to extend their hours anymore. We're just asking for more alcohol-related harm. And I think it's very important. We need to remember that all the time. This is what it's all about, reducing alcohol-related harm. And we need to take the advice that the longer the hours of trade, the more harm that's being done. We're not reducing the hours very significantly, but it's enough to show that we do care about our community and we do want what's best for them. Thank you.
Point of order. I don't believe anyone's asked for extended hours. As far as I'm aware, they asked for status quo.
Extended from the draft LAP, which we are now considering.
Councillor Crystal.
Yes, through the Mayor. Having listened today, and for on licences, I'm quite happy for them to stay at 3 p.m. If we are going to look at New Zealand stats, Nelson and Queenstown, tourist towns, are 4 p.m. AM. 4 a.m. Having brought up 3 boys who have made it into their 20s, sometimes by good luck rather than good management, I was way more happy when they were out at a venue such as the Thirsty Well than when they were at a party at someone's house where I had very, very little control over what happened to them. So having somewhere to go, and I totally agree, as a young 18, 20-year-old girl, those girls go there because they feel safe there. I am quite happy to change the off licence to 9 p.m. because I also witnessed the same children whipping down to get alcohol to just keep preloading. So I'm actually happy to bring it back to 9 p.m. because I've seen the results of what happens with that. So those are, I guess, my preferences.
Bearing in mind we're not actually voting yet, I'm just trying to get a feel for the room to put together the resolution to vote on. Councillor Brown.
Thank you. I'm supportive of what we went out and consulted on, having listened to everyone, and I think like some of the strongest submissions were from like the Thirsty Well, for example, and seeing the incredible work that they do to keep people safe is wonderful, but I don't think that is what we are looking at in this submission. our role in this is to reduce the harm, and we have seen quite clearly that there is a strong correlation between the availability of alcohol and the amount of harm. So logic makes sense that if you reduce the availability of alcohol, then you reduce the harm, and that's already shown in the police stats and everything. So given that the purpose of this document that we're trying to create here is about reducing harm and minimising the harm, I think, like to Councillor Crown's point, if it ain't broke, don't change it. But isn't it broke? Like, we have so much harm out there. And keeping with the status quo does nothing to minimise or reduce the harm, which is our purpose here today.
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. It's been an interesting debate and the submissions have been an interesting read, particularly the verbal submissions today, and quite frankly, I'm very impressed by the responsibility that some of our licence holders, how responsible they are and the efforts they take to take care of their patrons. What we're actually debating here is the environments that we have control over. There is a large number of environments that we don't have any control over. Alcohol and the volumes will remain available regardless of the time frames that we restrict the off licences to. The same volumes of alcohol will be there. It just means that people purchasing the alcohol will do it in more refined hours. What we're actually introducing by changing the hours is probably more inconvenience to some of our residents who have patterns of lifestyle that mean they do their grocery shopping at 7 o'clock in the morning because it's the best time for them to do their shopping. We would now be affecting some of those people's ability to carry on doing their normal thing. So to touch on the points that have been made, is the environment that we control through this lab the broken environment? And I think we have to be very mindful that by imposing greater restrictions on what appears to be a well-controlled environment, that we are in fact affecting the wrong part of society. And I think there are other ways and other places and other authorities that have a greater element of control in that space that we will never be anywhere near. So my considerations are that I think we've dealt successfully with the discretionary conditions and that our licensing issuers can impose controls that are suitable and reasonable if required to the circumstances of the licence. I'm happy to revert back to the previous off-licence hours as to the previous lap. I think if we're going to extend the nightclubs and pubs to 3 a.m, we perhaps need to review the one-door policy, the one-door timing. Currently, we've changed it from 2 to 1 a.m. So the question is, if we change back to 3 a.m, do we change that or do we retain it at 1 a.m? So that's the space that I'm sitting in. I believe by making significant change, by adopting the policy that's on the table today, we actually affect the people that we've got no control over. And I think we're far better off working with the licensed environments to ensure that they are providing safe and caring environments, as we heard from some of our licence holders.
So, based on what I'm hearing around the table, what I'm going to propose as an amendment to the officer's recommendation, yet to be debated and voted on, but as our starting position, is that we retain the provisions in the existing LAP regarding maximum trading hours. 3 a.m. and the 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So when we've worked through the rest of the recommendations, we'll have the opportunity. I'll ask for a mover and seconder, and then we'll open up for the formal debate and voting. But I think we'll have that as our starting position. Okay, so next up we have changed the draft LAP location provisions to include Marewa and Onikawa alongside Maraenuri for no further off licences to be issued. Is there any comments or discussion on that, or happy to leave it as it is? currently in the recommendation. Okay.
Just, I would like to say that from what I've heard about from Maraenui is they're comfortable with the provision about Maraenui, but they felt the evidence that supported that decision in the previous LAP was the same as the evidence that supports Mariwa and Onikawa. They felt stigmatised by being singled out as having a high rate of deprivation and a large number of, well, they don't have a large number of licensed premises or off-licensed premises, but also a large number of ED showings. So they felt that if it's going to be applied to us, then it should be applied to the other two regions, the other two suburbs that have the same kind of background evidence supporting that particular clause.
Thank you, Councillor Bogue. So you're supportive of the change to include, yeah. Okie dokie. Discretionary conditions. This might take a minute. Well, based on what we've heard today, I'm feeling a little bit like we might have gone over the top in terms of what we've added into here, because we don't need to have it included in here for our DLC to impose it on a licence, so they can use their own experience and knowledge and expertise and in conversation with the applicant and through reviewing the alcohol management plan, I think, rather than us trying to have this exhaustive list of discretionary conditions, whilst acknowledging I think it's helpful to have this available as a guide. And I think we need to make it really, really clear in the wording or in the introduction to it that these are not mandatory, that these are only for consideration during the assessment of an application. So some words to that effect. I think and the on-licence and club licences 14 and 15, which was the impact assessments and the incident register, we've received some clear advice from the lawyer that he didn't feel that was the appropriate place for these, so I think I would like to see those removed. I would be keen to hear views around the table, particularly in relation for off licences with regards to exterior signage or advertising, and whether we want to impose that 30% restriction of the building or glass exterior.
I think the point made with the Salvation Army, I think it was, there are some monumental advertisements for some of the off-licence premises, in particular on Carlisle Street, and the importance of that in terms of normalising unhealthy drinking, particularly for young people. There are schools around there. It's a well-travelled part of town, and it seems that I think we would be within our rights to consider putting rules in place that do not allow these enormous signages to occur advertising alcohol.
It wouldn't be retrospective, would it? Should have asked the lawyer that question, but you wouldn't be able to impose that on someone with an existing licence. Yeah.
Sorry, through the chair, no.
No. But if they have to reapply for their licence, would you then be able to impose it?
Yes.
Right. Any other?
It's quite hard to stipulate that, really, isn't it? For a
Well, I
licence.
mean, the example of Thirsty Liquor, for example, they would currently have be far exceeding 30% of their.
Yeah.
So that's what you're considering, places like that, where if they have to, how often do they have to reapply for their licence?
Through the chair, every 3 years.
So that means they could have this huge cost hitting them in as little as a year's time to completely redo all their exterior sign writing. I mean, I'm just thinking of unintended consequences here. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The same applies, I think, for the SIPTED stuff. I think what does that mean for a business when they're going to reapply? I'm just thinking if some of them don't have a lot of glass in the front, don't have that visual kind of line of sight, etc. I'm wondering about what the cost incur for those sorts of changes would potentially be too.
Yeah. Anyone hugely objecting to if we took out the signage and advertising?
Which, as I said, one of the discretionary.
It's in the discretionary, but I think it's just acknowledging that actually why make this more complicated than we need to? Thinking about the unintended consequences that may result from us doing this with existing businesses who may have to apply for their licence in a year's time and they're only going to incur tens of thousands of dollars worth of sign writing costs because we've made a change to our local alcohol policy.
But Madam Mayor, in the meantime, other liquor stores might decide, okay, we're going to have this monumental, enormous sign and there's no rules or laws against it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to get a sense around the table for.
Do we word it as new premises as opposed to licence?
We could make it so that it's only applicable to a new premise as opposed to when they have to get a new liquor licence.
Yeah. I suppose, actually, how expensive would it be? Is it, could it just be painted over in a new, I don't know, tens of thousands might be a little bit more, than, I don't know. Hello.
Take it out.
Yeah, just if that's our test.
Sorry, could I add to that? We have district plan requirements around signage as well. So irrespective of what's in the LAP,
Yeah,
if they're proposing to put up any advertising signage, then there may be requirements under our district plan, dependent upon the land zone, for them to submit a resource consent application for that.
so again, thinking about existing businesses, they clearly meet our current district plan requirements.
Or they did at the time
At
of
the time
the
of-
sign being erected on the site.
And actually the district plan is the better place to consider things like signage.
Yeah.
So I think on that alone, this needs to come out because you could end up in a situation where they're actually not aligned. They contradict each other. Okay, so, yeah, remove that one. I agree with councillor Crown around the set TED. I think, again, we're imposing something that might result in some significant, changes for businesses. The no single sale, we heard some really interesting points on that today, and even from communities against alcohol harm who was sort of, I felt, actually supportive of retaining but maybe tweaking in some way. But I actually just think, again, do we just take it out?
Yep. It's complicated.
Still within their rights, or like within their powers to put it in.
Exactly,
It was
yeah.
specific to a niche.
Specific to, an application where they feel it's appropriate to actually impose a condition like that, they could still do it without it being listed in here.
Yep.
So again, off licences, it's the same to take out the impact assessments and the incident register. And then really it's just these, from me anyway, it's looking at the special licences. And we're adding some pretty, that requirement of a separate line or service area for non-alcoholic beverages.
It was, sorry, and the prescribed ratio of security.
Yeah.
All that stuff is so,
I think it just feels really,
would that stuff not be wrapped up in a sufficiently detailed alcohol management plan?
yeah. I actually think we just take out all the additions. Because surely we don't even need to make a note about them having a alcohol management plan because that's already required under the Act. So we don't need to include it in our local alcohol policy.
I think where these have value is for someone who's new applying for a liquor licence and they have an idea of the range of discretion, like the powers that the DLC have. So just maybe not take out everything, but if we just enough there that gives a flavour of what the power of discretion is that the DLC have.
Our liquor licensing officer for someone who's new to doing a special license application can provide them with guidance as they do their application.
Should be a brochure.
Yeah. Having done one myself for special licenses, yeah, I got the advice I needed. Okay, so everyone happy with taking removal of 32, 33 and 34?
Yep.
Oh, sorry, do we want to leave in the food one? Because let's discuss the food one. And there was a change to what's in the draft as well, wasn't there, in your recommendation? It was a change that 3 substantial food options must be provided. These must, provided or available?
It should be available.
Available is a better word. And these must be similar to the menu submitted as part of an alcohol licence application. A reasonable range of different types of food should be available in portions suitable for a single customer. There were a few submissions that spoke to this, but actually not many, were there, opposing it? Is that something you're already pretty much having to do?
Yeah, so there's a requirement there around
Yeah.
provision of food.
Yeah.
I think what we're trying to just do here is provide a bit more guidance as to what types of food needed to be provided there.
It still needs to be practical though, doesn't it, at the end of the day? You don't want to be providing a three-course meal at
No, that's right.
1:30 in the morning.
Need a chef on.
Yeah.
DLC, I'm going to suggest
Just through the mayor, how do places like the Cabana and Paisley Stage get on who don't even have a kitchen?
You can get away with a microwave.
They're required to provide food,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but they wouldn't even have a menu.
Probably would.
So as part of the application process, they'll provide us with a menu.
Part of the host responsibility is having that food.
Yeah. I just don't want us to be
Too restrictive.
putting it into, so that we're expecting these elaborate food items to be available at some ridiculous time of the night. We need to be reasonable here. So I guess, if at a hospitality bar, restaurant, nightclub has on its menu wedges, nachos, fries,
That's substantial.
then that meets what we're putting into here, I guess.
Like a lot of potatoes.
Because presuming they will have included that on the menu that they've submitted as part of their licence application. And I guess if we're stipulating that for on licence and off licence, do we also want to include that into the special licence category?
It is under the special license.
No, well, I was pulling it out.
It is a host responsibility.
Yeah.
The
Okay, so
idea
we'll
is
leave
to
that in.
Have some food while you're
So leave that one in the special licences, but remove 32 and 34.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get Gemma to pull this up for us all to review. All right, and then the final part of the officer's recommendation was around ensuring that the definition of grocery store was updated to match section 33 of the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act. So I think we're all in agreement that that needs to be changed.
Excuse me.
Councillor Crown.
Can I make, through you, can I make one other suggestion? In our policy, we outline, oh, hang on, I might be going a bit doolally. Oh, no. Sorry, I thought we had the oh, no, we do. So, sorry, in the policy, we have the objectives of the LAP. The first two objectives relating to the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act, and then obviously underneath that are our ones for the LAP. The final bullet point says work collaboratively with community and agencies on initiatives to reduce alcohol-related harm. based on the submissions that we've received and the feedback, I was wondering whether we should add into there, work collaboratively with community agencies and industry on initiatives to reduce alcohol-related harm, since it's clear that they're already doing things, and I think it was clear throughout the submissions that they want to be part of the development of such policy and at the table to inform our decisions as well.
I mean, it's a very good point. Have made a note of that. Great. Okay, so we've popped up here where we've landed through conversation around the table. I'll give everyone a moment to review. So I guess we probably haven't really captured in the here what we've removed. Yeah, if we have a 4 under D. Oh. Remove 14, not 13, 14, 15, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 32 and 34. I'm just wondering if with I think we probably need to be specific that the one-way door policy, so make it, sorry, I'm going to make you renumber all of them. So you've got number 1, make a new number 2, retain the provisions in the existing LAP regarding the one-way door policy or hours. Policy will be fine, you know what we mean. Yeah, yeah, you can do that later. One-way door restriction. I knew I didn't have the right word. Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, just a suggested wording change for the D, currently numberless, D3 it'll be. Because no further could mean no further in time or no further in thing. So what about no additional off licences may be issued beyond the current number? It's clarifying. It's,
I
yeah.
agree,
Yeah, just provide that extra clarity.
beyond.
And it will be after. Oh, I don't know. Sorry. Yeah. there's no further comments or feedback, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder when you're all happy that you've absorbed what we've got up there.
Madam Mayor, do you think we could vote for some of them separately? Because
We can do that if you would like to
the
take
first
them.
one, the hours of trade, whatever it's called.
Does the numbering just need to be tidied up? Achieve that outcome?
So perhaps take D separately? Is that,
Please. Yep. That would become E, wouldn't it, or what?
so D is comprised of a number of components. We could break it down further
Yeah,
if you're
I'd
wanting to,
prefer that
if
myself.
it's more just around the maximum trading
The
hours.
1 and 2, and the,
And the
yeah.
one-way door
Yeah.
restrictions. Okay. Do that, no problem. Everybody had time to read through? So I'll move in second and then I'll break it up in terms of going through for the vote.
I'm happy to move it.
Happy to move?
Happy to
Thank
second.
you, councillor Price. Thank you, councillor Mawson. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, I think we've said quite a bit. I sort of take, one of the points I've got out of it, and councillor Simpson referred to it, is the harm from alcohol actually doesn't finish at the hotel or bar. It actually has the potential to carry on. And that we were all pretty impressed in what we heard today on how these premises are run, protection of your of people that are patrons there. And I refer, and like Councillor Crystal did, to I'd sooner have my son in a bar than in a party. And I've had a son that used to do a lot of partying, and I'd get texts from, what's the best thing I do when you've smashed a window or whatever. And one of those was from in one of the countries Graham referred to. I think it might have been in France. But I think we've thrashed it out pretty well. We are Napier, we're nowhere else, and we are a tourist town. And I think the solicitor for food stuff referred to us completely off the hook that we are a tourist town. And he wasn't asked or anything. That's the impression of someone that's not living here. So I think we've come up with a good result, and that's why I'm talking in favour of it. Thank you.
Councillor Mawson.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. Whenever we come to this sort of the statistic-based stuff, I find that this is along the lines of class 4 gambling too, where you've got almost the same evidence that's being used by both people, but they've just put a different spin on it. But ultimately for me, maintaining the current hours protects personal freedom while keeping a focus where it should be, encouraging safe, responsible environments without unfairly penalising law-abiding citizens. And even though it's been a bit of a moving feast, we've got over 50% of people have submitted and wanted to keep the current or submitted against the LAP we've suggested, draft LAP. So I'm on that basis, listening to the community and everything I've heard, I'll happily speak in favour of this.
Thank you, the speakers.
I'll speak against, is it 1 and 2? Oh, sorry, yes, 1 and 2.
I
Can
think
speak both of
we'll
them?
speak obviously against the main points that you want us to
Okay.
speak against, and then we'll split it up and vote on it.
Right, mine's the maximum trading hours and the one-way door provisions. I feel like in rejecting those 4 extra hours, less alcohol purchasing that we put in our new LEP, that we're going backwards. In 2014, our council at the time wanted what we've got in our draft LAP now. We had to fight for 3 years to get the current one, which was a compromise and a watering down of what the community had asked us to implement. So keeping the status quo to me shows we don't want to actively reduce alcohol-related harm. And the only ways, this is the only way we can control alcohol-related harm. And by not taking this opportunity, it shows that we don't want to actively reduce alcohol-related harm, which is very significant in our community. So the way the public will read this is that we're pandering to the wishes of a thirsty whale. Now, all bars in Napier is known for issues involving police after their closure and outside their premises there. I haven't been there at 2 a.m, but a couple of our submitters say in no uncertain terms things like, having spent 3 years listening to drunk patrons screaming, dropping bottles, fighting and yelling as bars closed in Ahuriri in the weekends, I'm delighted to read a more sensible approach, and I'd like to see the earlier closures enacted, and there was another one. As far as the door, closing door, one-way door, the medical officer of health said that the one-way door consideration is that it stopped having everyone leave all at the same time, which is likely to make hot spots of intoxicated people all in one place. So we only have one way of actively reducing alcohol-related harm. This is it, and I feel by rejecting the provisions of the draft LEP, we are letting our people down. Thank you.
Councillor Taylor, then Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor. Like Councillor Bogue, I'm interested in why LAPs were introduced. And LAPs were introduced in New Zealand because it was found that the national laws were too broad and did not overcome the high levels of alcohol harm, crime, family violence, and health problems related or linked to alcohol. The LAP is primarily to reduce harm, but in doing so, needs to balance economic and social interests while aiming to create a safer, healthier community. And like Councillor Bogue, I don't believe that reducing the on-licence hour for one, because there's only one, by 1 hour is actually going to make a significant difference to the vitality of Napier at that hour of the morning. And sadly, by taking what appears to be the approach of retaining our current LAP, we are going to be further out of step with Hastings, and they may have been the ones who instigated having separate LAPs, but they have requested and we have agreed to try and work collaboratively and ensure some consistency across the two cities. And I think, Mr. Bickle, Nigel Bickle's letter in which he stated local alcohol policies play a crucial role in balancing public safety with the needs of a nighttime economy. Both councils have worked diligently to ensure consistency where needed. If we have variation, unintentional consequences could result negatively. These could include cross-border patronage, potentially contributing to greater alcohol-related harm, public safety, and even creating an uneven playing field for businesses. So I accept many of the recommendations, but I cannot concur with returning to a 3 a.m. closing. And the one-door policy aligns with the closing time, 1 hour before closing, so that just goes hand in hand.
Councillor Brown.
Today, I see this as we're deciding whether to build a stronger shelter for our community or whether to leave parts of it exposed to the storm. That storm is real, and the alcohol harm isn't just statistics, it's stories. It's the dad who's trying to stay sober, walking into the supermarket where every aisle reminds him of the life he's trying to live. It's the girl out with her friends, feeling invincible at 2:15 in the morning. She's had enough, she knows she's had enough, but someone convinces her to just have one more. That one more pushes her past the tipping point, past the point where she can get herself home safely, past the point where she can give consent, past the point where her life stays on track and on the path she dreamed of. It's easy to think about the people who might be slightly inconvenienced by reduced trading hours or fewer licences. It's harder and more important to think about those people already weathering that storm every day, often silently and often alone. The question we're really answering today isn't about trading hours or licensing numbers or customer convenience. It's about who deserves shelter and how strong are we willing to build it. Our supermarkets can and do already cater to diverse needs. As we've heard, Woolworths Carlisle already provides a low sensory shopping hour for people with sensory sensitivities. This shows supermarkets can adapt to meet the needs of vulnerable groups. Alcohol addiction is a recognised disease, and the needs of those in recoveries should be treated with the same seriousness. Foodstuffs talked about the reasonableness test. I think we should apply that same principle to those who are harmed by alcohol. It's unreasonable that in Napier there are no major supermarkets where recovering alcoholics can shop safely without exposure to alcohol sales. And we heard some of the options available to them, but they all require pre-planning. If you just need a sandwich, you're out of luck. Recovering addicts face daily triggering environments in every major supermarket in Napier. Contrast that serious ongoing burden against the relatively minor influence of restricted hours for responsible customers. In Invercargill, alcohol isn't sold in supermarkets at all, and life carries on just fine. I think that even if this council chooses convenience over courage today, I think it's important that at least some of us stood up for protecting our most vulnerable in the community, and that matters today, and it'll matter into the future.
We've had three consecutive speakers against the motion. Do I have anyone else wishing to speak in support? Councillor McGrath.
Yes, just through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think we've thrashed it out quite nicely today, and it all sits well with me, how it's currently put. I just look around our room and our table specifically, and the likes of the 3 o'clock in the morning, that's for 18 to 25-year-olds. And I look around this room, and that's not us. And the closest we got was Georgia, and she's not quite there yet to be commenting on that. And I've loved what I heard from Rocks Off, not from the Thirsty Whale Max, because they shut at 10. Rocks Off goes from 10 till 3, just to be specific. And they do a very good job. And I guess part of that is because we hold them to that. And I guess we will continue to do so. And I keep hearing about Hastings. I was voted in for Napier. It's about time, perhaps Hastings looked at themselves and said, actually, Napier's going till 3. If we think there's a big enough issue with the two different closing times, we'll match Napier. It doesn't always have to be us going the other way. They can actually match us. We're a tourist town, perhaps they aren't so much. Maybe that has different relevances to what we do. We're only talking about, I think, one place in Napier currently that's open, and it offers a point of difference from 10 till 3 in Napier that you can actually go and dance. Not my thing, but for plenty of people it is. And perhaps if we go back far enough for some round the table, dancing was a big thing. And I'm not prepared to take that away from our community who are growing up and doing their thing and learning about the world. Can't learn about the world sitting at home playing on a PlayStation. So I'd like to think that we do have some protections in there, and we have our police playing a role, our staff playing a role, and the DHB, or whatever they are, Health New Zealand playing a role. And we do reduce the harm, because that's what it's all about.
Councillor Crown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to speak in support of where we're at today. I think that we shouldn't be assuming more responsibility or expectation about the LAP's ability to shift the dial in regards to harm minimisation and influence in the overall regulatory framework in which it sits. And I certainly don't have my head in the sand as to how much harm there is in our community, but it is about looking to manage what we actually can control that has the best chance of impacting alcohol harm. And where we've landed today, I think we're maintaining some trading flexibility. We're helping to manage operational risk controls through the right channels, including law and policies, rather than just blanket our restrictions. And we're focusing or helping the industry focus on smart venue and event management and not punishing all traders. I'm actually really sad that the data that we've been provided with doesn't support us in minimising the hours. I think some of the questions that we had for our legal representative in particular really highlighted the fact that we were looking for something for us to be able to hang these decisions on, and unfortunately that just wasn't forthcoming in this instance. I would love to encourage those that are collecting that data to ask the right questions for the locality, so that when we're presented with the information, it makes it much easier for us to correlate and to bring those things together. I think that where we've landed has also, it responds to a community that feels stigmatised. It responds to community members who want to enjoy engaging in a nightlife. And I personally am incredibly proud of our council and the efforts, the protection, consideration that we have for our city's most vulnerable. The work from our policy team, our housing team, Napier Assist, and the numerous community collaborations and partnerships that we have with the likely agencies like WIT, police, Kāinga Ora, etc., via our community development team. I think this is about being realistic about what we can achieve through this mechanism, whilst not forgetting the other mechanisms that we have in play as well.
Any further speakers to the motion? Councillor Tariha.
I support the motion before us today, moved by Councillor Price and seconded by Councillor Mawson. I feel like at this stage there's no clear or compelling evidence to suggest that the existing trading hours have contributed to alcohol-related harm in our community. While I acknowledge that limiting trading hours can be one tool to reduce potential harm, any change to policy must be guided by robust, locally relevant evidence and clearly demonstrated need, which I feel hasn't been established. As a parent of a teenage son, I also consider the importance of safe and controlled environments for our young people. While I don't believe my son is likely to drink anyway, if he were to attend a party, I would prefer that to occur in a setting where expectations and behaviours can be better managed, rather than in an unregulated or potentially unsafe environment that could emerge from other locations. But a lot of robust kōrero going on, and I'd just like to speak in support of the motion.
Thank you. So we've now had 3 consecutive speakers in support. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak against before I offer Councillor Price's right of reply? Councillor Price?
Okay, I don't think any of us dispute that there's hazardous drinking. I think we all know that, and we'd all love to stop it, but the only way to stop it is to stop alcohol full stop. Because when they leave the thirsty well, and I refer to Councillor Brown saying about the young lady at 2:15, tempted for another drink, would you sooner stay for a drink or go to a party? That's a question you can ask yourself if you want to put scenarios in. And I mean, that makes it quite clear to me. I'd sooner them stay at the thirsty well and have another drink than go to a party, which is not protected by security guards, etc., etc., etc. I think, Councillor McGrath, we've put our stake in the ground. Hastings can do the same if they want to. It's not as if we're doing it over the top of them. We're laying it down. If they want all of their customers to come over and spend their money in Napier, well, they should stick at 2 o'clock. But I think we've come up with the right result. As Councillor Tarriar said, there's no real evidence to support the change. And as I said, especially for you, Councillor Bogue, we do recognise there is an issue with alcohol. But cutting the hours back, I don't think will fix it.
Nothing else we can do.
Thank you.
That's all we can
Okay,
do.
so I'm going to split the motion into two parts. So A, B, C and D subsections 3 through to 5.
Could it go up there again?
So essentially, Councillor Bogue, I'm just taking out the maximum trading hours and the one-way door restrictions to do separately.
Is this from here? It's not up there.
Yeah, we'll pop it up.
Thank you.
So A, B, C, and then D, 3, 4 and 5 are what I'm putting forward for the vote first. So under D, Part 3 is inclusion of Marewa and Onikawa. Part 4 is the changes that we're making to the discretionary conditions list. Part 5 is the grocery store definition amendment.
Did we include a change to the wording to make sure that these were a list of options rather than guidelines? We discussed that earlier.
We can include it in the resolution under I mean, we are getting this back to adopt as well. So I think as long as, I know Stephen was taking notes.
Yeah.
Then, yeah. Okay. So I put the motion on A, B, C and D, parts 3, 4 and 5.
And 6.
Are we up to 6? Oh, that's right, yes. Yeah, it's just leaving out 1 and 2. Basically, we're voting on everything except the maximum trading hours and the one-way door restrictions. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, and now I'll put the motion on D, parts 1 and 2, which is the maximum trading hours and the one-way door restrictions. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Maybe a raise of hands. Brown, Bogue and Taylor. Carried. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Some really good, robust discussion. Thank you, Stephen and Luke. Thank you to our submitters that are still here with us today. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Yeah, so that is the conclusion of this part of our agenda. We will have, we'll break till 3 o'clock, and then we've got local waters done well.